Welcome to This Explainer. Let's dive right in and demystify the newborn bathing process, because we are going to transform what is often a super stressful chore into an incredibly relaxing, bonding experience. Look, for a lot of new parents, the mere idea of handling a slippery, fragile newborn in a tub of water, it causes a ton of anxiety. But the great news is, once you understand the science of your baby's skin, master a few very specific safety boundaries, and learn how to actually interpret their cries, you can use bath time as a beautiful tool to help them sleep better. So let's kick things off with a massive misconception. How often does a newborn actually need a bath? Well, you might be totally surprised to learn that in the first week, your baby doesn't need a daily bath at all. Honestly, that takes a huge amount of pressure off new parents. Waiting a few days actually gives your baby the time they need to adjust to life outside the womb, all without the overwhelming shock of a full submersion. Here is exactly how we're going to break it down today. First, when to bathe. Second, safety and preparation. Third, step-by-step bathing. Fourth, troubleshooting tears. And finally, drying and sleeping.
All right, let's jump straight into section 1, when to bathe, focusing on timing and frequency.
Newborn hygiene is just completely different from ours. Early on, that white, greasy layer they're born with, called the vernix, acts basically like a built-in super shield. It naturally protects their highly sensitive skin from drying out and literally fights off bacteria. Because of this, for the first few weeks, a simple warm washcloth over their face, hands, and bottom is absolutely plenty. It's really only after about 4 to 8 weeks that you might want to introduce mild baby washes, because by then, their skin barrier has become a bit more robust. So what's the sweet spot? Honestly, 2 to 3 times a week is more than enough to prevent skin irritation. Giving them a bath every single day can actually strip away their natural oils and cause dry skin or eczema. And as for the time of day, doing it directly between feedings is absolutely key. This ensures your baby isn't crying from hunger or anxiety, but they also aren't so full that the warm water makes them spit up their last meal.
Moving right along to section 2, safety and preparation. It is time to set those safety boundaries.
Okay, let's talk about the numbers you need to memorize. Starting with 37 degrees Celsius, that is your exact body temperature sweet spot for the water. A baby's skin is way thinner than ours, so what feels just mildly warm to your hands might actually be uncomfortably hot for them. You absolutely must measure this with a reliable bath thermometer and then double-check it with a highly sensitive area of your own skin, like the inside of your wrist or your elbow. The next number to keep in mind is 24 degrees Celsius. That's what the bathroom itself needs to be preheated to. See, a wet newborn loses body heat incredibly fast, way faster than an adult does. If the room is chilly, that relaxing bath instantly turns into a shivering, miserable experience the second they come out of the water. Finally, the water depth should only be a super shallow 8 to 10 centimeters. And please remember, the most critical safety rule of all, never, ever step away. A baby can silently drown in just a tiny layer of water in a matter of seconds.
To guarantee you literally never have to walk away, use a prep checklist. Having everything perfectly staged within arm's reach is a total game changer. One of the best tips out there is to wrap their little clothes in thin muslin cloths around a preheated hot water bottle beforehand. That way, the exact second they come out of the bath, they're immediately wrapped up in comforting warmth. Now, before your baby even gets near the tub, we have to talk about how you fill it. Always add cold water first, then warm water. This specific sequence prevents a scalding hot bottom layer from forming in the tub, completely protecting your baby from instant burns. Fill the cold, mix in the warm until you hit that 37-degree mark, and stir it thoroughly so there are no hot spots. And it probably goes without saying, but never turn on the hot tap to top it up while your baby is actually sitting in the water.
All right, section 3, step-by-step bathing, where we'll cover the actual technique. So the first few times you do this, it's definitely going to feel a bit intimidating, right? But it's all about mastering the grip. You want to slide your arm under the back of their neck, so their head rests comfortably on the inside of your wrist and forearm. Then, use your hand to loosely clamp your thumb around their thigh. This clever lock grip ensures they absolutely cannot slip out of your hands, which leaves your other hand completely free to gently wash them. Keep it brief. While it is a lovely bonding moment, keeping the bath under 10 minutes prevents your baby from getting too cold or overstimulated. They really don't need a long soak. A quick, gentle wash of their folds, behind the ears, and between their little fingers and toes is all it takes. Which brings us to section 4, troubleshooting the tears, basically first aid for crying. So, what happens if things don't go smoothly? If your baby screams the second their toes touch the water, do not panic. this is completely normal. First, as we mentioned, ensuring they're fed beforehand stops hunger anxiety. Second, by lowering their feet and bottom into the water first, you prevent that terrifying feeling of falling backward. That falling feeling triggers their moro-startle reflex, which you definitely want to avoid. Third, place a warm, wet washcloth directly on their exposed belly. It provides instant calming pressure and traps the heat. And lastly, babies look to you to understand how to feel. Smile, make soft, reassuring sounds. It projects that the environment is totally safe.
And if they're still upset when it's time to get out, you need to transition them fast. Here's a fantastic trick, the towel hack. Just tie a towel around your neck like a bib before you even start the bath. This lets you scoop your wet, crying baby straight from the water into an immediate, warm embrace against your chest. No fumbling with a towel on a changing pad while trying to hold a slippery baby. You just pull them straight to your body and wrap them up securely.
And that brings us to our final section, Section 5, Drying in the Sleep Ritual, all about the aftermath.
The bath isn't really over when you pull the plug. The drying process is just as vital for their skin health. Because a baby loses a massive amount of heat through their head, always dry that area first. Furthermore, using those pre-warmed thin muslin cloths, the hydrophilic ones, allows you to gently dab inside all those tiny skin folds. Thick towels, they just can't reach deep into the neck, armpits, and groin. Getting every single drop of moisture out of those folds and the umbilical stump is critical to preventing painful moisture rashes and infections.
Once they are perfectly dry and dressed in their pre-warmed clothes, this amazing biological magic trick happens. It's the post-bath sleep drop. As their body cools back down to its normal resting state after the warm water, it signals to their brain that it's time to shut down. This temperature drop makes your baby delightfully rosy and tired, naturally preparing them for a deep, restorative sleep.
This quote perfectly sums it up. A warm bath can be a wonderful part of the sleep ritual where your baby becomes nice and rosy, tired, and sleepy. The bath is far less about scrubbing away dirt and entirely about creating a warm, bonding transition into the night. It becomes a sensory cue. When you establish this routine, your baby eventually learns that this warm, soothing process means bedtime is up next.
So rethink the bath. It's not a chore, it's a massive opportunity. Knowing the incredible power of temperature and timing, how will you design your baby's ultimate stress-free bath ritual? I hope this explainer leaves you feeling super confident, prepared, and ready for bedtime. Thanks for tuning in.